So, this took place sometime in the winter of 2017. This actually happened to one of my friends who used to be in high school. I'll call her by the name Sierra. Sierra loved taking hikes throughout lots of forest and stuff. She mainly did this because she wanted to get away from high school drama and even high school life, as it had been treating her like hell. Now, at the time of this story, she was in senior year, and it was on a winter day when Sierra and her boyfriend ended up having an argument, to which I won't go into. But I will say that the argument did end up in them breaking up, which is unfortunate. So, to cool things off, Sierra decided that she would go for a walk. It was during nighttime and it was winter out, so it was snowing a bit. She didn't mind the snow as long as it wasn't a blizzard outside. She was okay to walk in the snow. Her parents know she would go on these walks, and they were strict with the rules, telling her to always be careful of her surroundings, which is why she had always brought along pepper spray, a pocket knife, and some self-defense weapons, just so she can keep safe. She only takes them on walks if it's necessary, but most of the time she doesn't really have a time. But one day she was glad that she did brought it with her. She was walking down a path that she normally went on, and it happened to be very peaceful, with only the sound of her feet walking through the snow. She was walking for about 10 minutes when she ended up hearing what seemed to be like footsteps coming from behind her. At first she thought that it could have been somebody else walking on the path, but she looked, but she couldn't find who it was. In fact, she couldn't find anyone walking, but she was the only one there, so she assumed that maybe it was something else. Of course, she continued walking for quite a little bit when all of a sudden she ended up tripping over something, and when she looked up, she could see a figure standing about maybe 4 or 5 feet away. This person looked to be maybe around 6 feet tall, and he looked like he had been, at most, maybe a person, but she wasn't so sure as to who he was. This is when she ended up realizing that whoever was probably had potentials of hurting her. She honestly didn't even know if she could run, because thinking that this guy would just run up. However, whatever it was wasn't noticing her, so she decided to try and sneak away as much as she could to get away from that area. Once she snuck away, she ended up hiding into what seemed to be a little ditch not far from where she was walking. She hid under a small alcove that had provided her some little bit of shelter. Not enough to fit 2 people, but just enough for one person to hide there. She hid there, and the person walked up and was right on top of her hiding spot. The person happened to be maybe a man, as he was mumbling words that Sierra didn't understand. She waited for a bit, hoping and praying to God that man would just leave. He honestly looked around thinking that Sierra was somewhere, but only turned around and walked away. After about a couple minutes, this is when Sierra decided to come out from her hiding spot, expecting the man to be around there. When she did that, she had her pepper spray out, but she didn't see the man. Instead, she saw some footprints leading back the way she came. Of course, that's when Sierra followed the paths, but she decided to take the other route back home. When she got back home, she didn't hesitate to tell her parents about it. When they filed for a report of this man who tried to stalk her, there were a couple complaints about a man who had been a serial killer in the loose. He had been known to murder lone people, especially teens at night. Sierra never encountered that man again during her walks, and she doesn't go out for them at night anymore. She doesn't even know who this man was or why he was following her. But whatever his intentions were obviously weren't good. When I was in gym class, this happened when I was in freshman year of high school. Now, to put it bluntly, I was in grade 9, and for the first few weeks in September, or when school started, we went on walks in the forest. It was during gym class when we went, and it was actually quite nice enjoying the nature all around and just having nothing to do than just chill out and relax on a lot of things. But however, we were doing some walking in the forest trail. While we were hiking, I ended up coming across some rocks with my class, and we decided to sit on the rocks for a bit. Our gym teacher said that we could sit on the rocks and play on them for a bit, to which we did. However, as I was sitting there, I ended up looking over to see that there was a box. This box looked to be maybe about cardboard, and it looked as if it was been there for at most a day or two. I honestly didn't even know what it was at first, so I decided to look over to see what it was. When I got there, I honestly looked, but there was nothing in the box. I honestly thought that maybe there could have been some treasure, as, I'm a treasure hunter. I always love to find things and always love hunting for anything that can be treasure related or any other stuff. While I was playing by the rocks and looking at the box, I ended up looking over to see that there was a person. He happened to be maybe 40 feet away, and he was staring at us from the forest. He was hiding in the brush, so I couldn't see what this man was doing. Of course, that's when our gym teacher saw him, and of course he gave a friendly nod before the man walked away. Honestly, I didn't even know who he was at first, but since I don't remember too much of it, all we were told by our gym teacher was to keep on walking the trail, to which we did. I asked my gym teacher shortly after the walk about that man, but of course he said he had no idea who this man was either. That's when the news report came on sometime when we got back home at least a few days later. It turns out on the news that this man happened to be some sort of kidnapper who had kidnapped and lured kids and even teens in the woods where he would kidnap them. Of course, the man was identified as some sort of Caucasian man, around maybe the age of 50, and he had been doing this for at most a year or two. I honestly couldn't even describe how paranoid and how really sickened I was to find out that this man who was watching us with our class, he honestly probably had plans to kidnap one of the students if the teacher wasn't looking. But I'm thank God that the teacher that did take us on the hike in the woods saw him and gave him a warning, says, "Don't go anywhere near the kids." I honestly don't know if this man is still out there today or if he was ever caught, but I like to think he was caught. But ever since then, there have been no update on this man since. So this actually happened a few years back, I think in 2019, and it was the summertime. This actually happened to one of my former classmates, which of course I will call her Mackenzie. Mackenzie was with her 4 friends: Robert, Daniel, Vanessa, and another girl named Miranda. Mackenzie and her friends decided to go on a little hiking trip in the forest, to which they always did. One day while they were hiking, they decided to stop at a picnic table that was maybe a couple miles away from where they started their hike. They of course decided to sit down and have a picnic dinner. Of course, while they were eating their picnic lunch, Mackenzie looked out to see that there was a man. He looked to be maybe in his late 20s, and he looked as if he was homeless. At first, she thought that maybe it could have been one of her friends pranking, but all of her friends were there. She goes up to the man, wondering if he was hungry or if he needed the help. Of course, the man says, "My wife kicked me out of the house. I have a friend who lives down the street not far. Can you give me a ride?" Of course, the man asked Mackenzie that, and that's when she realized that there was something off about that. The man didn't even look sincere with it. It looked like it had been practiced. I'm sorry, we really need to get going soon," Mackenzie said to the man, trying to get him to get the hint that she wasn't even listening. He repeated the same question, and that's when Mackenzie told him no. It wasn't until the fifth time that Mackenzie told him no, the man said few words that still chill her to this day. "You made the right decision." He then walked off back into the way he came in the forest, never to be seen again. Of course, Mackenzie told her friends about who this man was, and especially with the fact that he pretended to be someone who needed the help. It turns out that this man probably had tried to lure people in so he could kidnap them, rob them, or whatever. Mackenzie was just glad that she declined his offer and his help because of the fact that this man could have potentially be dangerous. She doesn't even know if he had a home or if his story was true or not. But she doesn't even know what would happen today if she accepted his help. God only knows what could have happened to her if she had gone with him to the help that he needed. She's still not sure if that man is still lurking around that area in the woods, but she surely doesn't want to return to find out.